Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to this version 1 webinar of PeopleSoft in the cloud. Well, my name is Graham Smith. I work for Cedar Consulting, part of the version 1 group, and I head up the PeopleSoft Technology team within version 1. That technology meaning development, infrastructure, cloud, anything pertaining to PeopleSoft technology. I blog regularly, as often as I can, and a great enthusiast for promoting and being part of the worldwide PeopleSoft community. I live in Oxford. That's where I've been working for the last, I think, 101 days now. We've been in lockdown here in the UK. The city of Oxford there looks as beautiful today in the beginning of summer as it does in that picture at the beginning of autumn. I work for version 1. Version 1 is a large organization providing software and services. We specializing in cloud migration since 2011. We work with all the major cloud providers, Microsoft, Oracle, and Amazon, official partners of all those 3 organizations. We have a very large managed services group, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And right now, today, our organization has over 100 customers running some aspect of their core business functions in cloud infrastructure, and we're working with them in that. We're also PeopleSoft application technology specialists and recognized by Oracle and by the community in winning awards. Last year being the UK OUG Partner of the Year, and more recently Oracle providing us with an award of European Partner of the Year. Let's begin with a trip down memory lane. This webinar is entitled PeopleSoft in the Cloud, is it better and is it cheaper? And I'm going to attempt to answer or give some perspective on those 2 questions. But let's take a trip down memory lane. Nostalgia, we wouldn't have anything to talk about without it, would we? Look, we used to do this. If you're ever in the UK and you get a chance to go up to the Lake District, this is Eskdale. It's a working mill. That power station powers a corn grinding machine that produces flour. Actually, you know what? These days, we just tend to do this. There was a day, I don't remember it, my dad does though, and my grandfather did, when we started our cars like this. Actually, we use these now. Well, maybe you have a key, but a lot of cars these days, you just push a button and the engine starts. And now these I do remember. TVs with dials and buttons and knobs. Apparently, you can lose several pounds in a year if you take the batteries out of this. What am I talking about here? Just evolution. Things change, sometimes for the better, sometimes not, but things do move on. Here's another piece of history. Those of you on the webinar who know me, have seen me present before, or have worked with me, this is me in 1986. I can prove it's me because actually I still have the tie. There's a few curry stains on there from nights out, but I still have the tie. It's the Graham tartan that. This is what I look like now. Actually, I don't look like that now. My hair is not quite as tidy as that now, but 30 odd years ago. You can see on my desk there from 30 odd years ago, and one of the original Hewlett-Packard MS-DOS 1.2 machines. It's a Raquel Milgo 1200 baud modem sitting in the corner there, and a manual for MPE, which is the operating system on a HP 3000 mini computer. Just over my right shoulder is our machine room, and this is part of the machine room. This was my team at the time, a bunch of operators and programmers, and this is what I want to show you. Sitting in the corner of the machine room is a HP 7978B tape drive. We thought we'd died and gone to heaven when we took delivery of this. It was the bee's knees, reel-to-reel magnetic tape with auto feeder. Didn't have to wind the tape onto the spool yourself. I dug out off the internet an original Hewlett-Packard promotional pamphlet for this machine. And it says, what if you could travel the same road faster? And the analogy they've given is a penny farthing bicycle and what looks like to be a super high speed racing bicycle with drop handlebars. Their claim was it would be 6 times faster doing backups. And this is in the small print. This high-spec, top-of-the-range magnetic tape subsystem is designed for large systems, typically with greater than 400 megabytes of storage. Well, I've got more than 400 megabytes of storage on my phone these days, and you know that was a large amount of data back in those days. If you ever watched Terminator 2, when they go to blow up the building where the cyborgs originally kind of sprang into life, you'll see a whole bank of 7978B tape drives and the accompanying 7977 HP disk subsystems that had 400 megabytes of storage. I'm rambling. I'm getting a bit nostalgic. This thing even read data at 75 inches per second. Anyway, what am I talking about here? Let me show you a video of Oracle Cloud Backup. Now, this could be done in any cloud platform, Azure, Amazon, Oracle. I just happen to be showing Oracle here. I have a disk system that is 100 gigabytes in size, and I've just requested it to go and back that up for me online while it's up and running. It's going to take a snapshot of that disk drive, and we're not going to sit and wait for it to finish, but I've got the real-time clock in the top corner there. I'm just going to speed up the video, and we'll just see how long this takes. So I've just backed up in under 4 minutes, twice as much data as one of my disk drives back 35 years ago backed up. Okay, so technology moves on. That's not my point. My point is I used to, and incidentally, in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, that backup's now going to cost me £1.74 per month to keep. I don't need to worry about where it is. It is there. And it's secure. What's my point? Technology does move on. In 1986, doing my backups was an 8-hour night shift. Today, I can back up the same amount of data with one click in under 15 minutes. And you're thinking, Graham, what's this got to do with cloud? Well, maybe it hasn't, but advances in technology have made cloud services, native cloud services like this possible. Can I do this with my on-premises systems? Maybe you can. I'm going to present some evidence that maybe in some situations cloud is better, but I don't know what you have, so I can't actually tell you whether what I'm showing you here is better. You may be able to back up the same amount of data there in 12 minutes. The point I'm making here is things move on. Today, I don't load mag tapes for a living. I'm no longer an operator shift manager. That was my primary job back then. Now it isn't. It's moved on. So what is cloud? Cloud is just a set of solutions to some common computing problems. By solving problems, guess what? You create opportunities. This was a quote from, I shouldn't really quote myself, should I? But this was an article that I wrote for the Oracle Scene magazine just a couple of years ago. The URL's there if you want to, that's still on the web. You can get that article on page 28. I talk about PeopleSoft in the cloud. And in this article, I described 3 characteristics of cloud. What is cloud? It's firstly unlimited compute resources. It's subscription-based pricing, a pay-as-you-go model of pricing. In a sense, you only pay for what you consume and use, and automation plays a key part in what is cloud. Something I touched on in the article but didn't really major on, which I am going to in this webinar, is native cloud services. What else is it about cloud that adds value to my PeopleSoft system should I decide to move it there? So what is cloud? And also the question of why would someone go to public cloud? There's all sorts of reasons why you might go to public cloud. The hardware that you're on might be coming to end of life. It might be difficult to maintain. It might keep breaking. Every time a disk subsystem fails, you have to have onboard skills to go and replace that. It might be that your hardware isn't performing as well as you want it to. It might be that you're worried about security, not just system security, but your on-premises data center security. Who can wander into the machine room and just walk out with a disk drive or some component. You might be concerned about availability. Maybe your incumbent data center team only work 8-hour shifts and you need 24/7 coverage, and that's difficult to organize for all sorts of reasons. Maybe you're struggling to have internal knowledge about your data center systems and software and networking, and it's certainly getting more and more complex as security demands and patching and upgrading demands are increasing. So any number of reasons why you might move to public cloud. And I really want to thank you for joining me with this webinar. There may be some things that I share with you, you think, yeah, okay, we knew that, Graham. There may be some things I share that make you think again or can reconsider something. I'm not here to persuade you to go to cloud. Staying where you are on premises may well serve your organization very well, but moving to the cloud might do. So we'd like to just take a quick poll, if we may, of those on the webinar. So we'd like to ask the question of what is your main business driver in moving to cloud? If it's something you're thinking about right now, what is your key business driver? Is it because you're on aging infrastructure? Is it you've got performance problems you're looking to maybe solve by moving to cloud? Are you looking to improve security? Is agility and system availability part of that? Or is there some other reason why you're moving to cloud? We'll just give everyone just a few more seconds to the opportunity to vote, and it's something you don't have to. You can pass over these votes if you wish to. Okay, I think everyone's had a chance to cast their opinion. Let's move on. Okay, PeopleSoft and the cloud. What does it offer me? And what does it offer me, and is it better? Now, this is an impossible question to answer, of course, because is it better? Better than what? I don't know. I don't necessarily know you. I don't know what your environment is. What do you want me to say? Yes, it is better. I don't know what you've got. So let's try and unpack what I might be saying here. So let's just look at what PeopleSoft in the cloud might look like. So currently you have your on-premises data center. It might not be physically on the premises where you work. In fact, right now, I would imagine today, wherever you are in the world, you're not working anywhere near your office and you're working from home. So in that sense, you're on your data center's off premises, but or maybe you're off premises, I don't know. So you've got your on-premises data center. It's quite likely it's running in a virtual environment, but it may not be. It may all be running on physical hardware and no virtualization at all. But our yellow box represents our data center. In that data center, you're going to have some components. You're going to have a network layer and some firewall security systems in place. You're going to have some computer hardware. If you're virtualized, then this hardware may be a set of hosts on which you run a hypervisor like VMware or Xen or Oracle virtual appliance. You're going to have some storage, whether that's local storage or some kind of SAN storage. On that hardware, you're going to create virtual machines. So if you're not virtualized, you're installing operating systems directly into the hardware. And you don't just have the operating system, either Linux or Windows or whatever, but you've got all the management of that operating system as well, the patching of it, the optimization of it, configuration of it, security. And then on one of those machines, you're running your database system, whether that's Microsoft SQL Server or DB2 or Oracle database. And then you have PeopleSoft. Now, I've deliberately simplified this diagram, because this isn't a webinar about how to migrate to cloud, or the nuts and bolts of what PeopleSoft might look like in the cloud, but I needed to represent this data center in some way. You may also have your client tools, so your app designer, your SQL tools, your development tools running on workstations that may or may not be in your data center, but they will be in your on-premises somewhere at a desk, or through some VPN on a remote workstation. And like I say, you may be running all of this on some virtualization platform. So you have your on-premises data center. What does this look like in cloud? Well, all of these components pretty much can be lifted and shifted directly to the cloud. And what do you get if you did that? If you simply took your architecture as it was and lifted the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel, and dropped it into the cloud, this is what you'd end up with. And you would end up with the characteristics that I described earlier of unlimited compute, subscription-based pricing. You'd end up with some automation. Yeah, you wouldn't need your virtualization platform because that's inherent within cloud infrastructure. You would end up with unlimited compute. You'd end up with subscription pricing. You'd end up with some automation. I'm going to come back to that a bit later on. And you are going to end up with some access to cloud services. Now, the first one I want to call out here is database as a service. Now, database as a service in both Azure, Amazon, and Oracle has been around for a little while. But right now, today, PeopleSoft is not certified on any database as a service platform. But we are expecting Oracle to certify PeopleTools against Oracle database as a service very soon. Don't know when that might be. Don't know what tools version that will be. Almost certainly 8.5.8. Might it not be until 8.5.9? I don't know. But I would be very, very surprised if Oracle didn't certify PeopleTools against database as a service at some time soon. Cloud services also might include things like file systems, email services, load balancers, integration services, and that's just a short list. We'll explore some of those later. But this is what it gives me by moving PeopleSoft to cloud. So let's try to kind of translate that into some real things, shall we? So let me give you a demo of environment cloning using PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. I'm going to talk a little bit about PeopleSoft Cloud Manager later, but this is an instance of PeopleSoft running in Oracle Cloud, and I'm about to use native Oracle Cloud services to clone a live running PeopleSoft environment. So let's just kick off this little demo. I'm just going to log in to the area where my environments are represented. So I have a HR image 34 system currently running, and I'm going to select the clone environment option. This system is made up of a very simple architecture. It's one Linux machine running the full stack and one Windows client running App Designer Change Assistant. I'm going to give my new environment a new name, HR Dev 1 Clone 001, and we'll launch that. Now, the reason I recorded this is I didn't want to have to wait around for this to finish. The storage on this running machine is around about 300 gigabytes in total, and it takes a little while to clone this environment. In fact, it takes, this is minutes, by the way. That's 10 minutes. We're just accelerating time here. Cloud doesn't do that, by the way. This is my video that does this. Here we go. It's now running. My clone is now running, and it's taken just over 17 minutes to clone that environment. Now, native cloud services were at work there. The storage devices were cloned. It's pretty much instantaneous in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and it's very similar in other clouds. After the clone of the storage, some scripts were run by Cloud Manager, which will prepare that environment for us to be able to log into it. So I did this just a couple of nights ago. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch to a view of this new clone that's now running, and I'm going to log into it. Now, all the necessary scripting has been done to make this now new clone of my HR system be an independent system with its own database, its own web and app server, and so on and so forth. That clone process would have worked regardless of how many web or app servers I had. So if my original HR dev system that I cloned had 2 web servers, 2 app servers, and the database server running on a separate machine, it would have cloned all of that. As it was, it just cloned the one instance. So I ended up with a second set of PeopleSoft Linux and web Windows servers. Let me talk about limited scalability. So back to our on-premises setup of PeopleSoft. Somewhere in your data center, you're going to have some computer hardware and some storage. And let's just fabricate an example here. Maybe that computer hardware is virtualized. Maybe you've got some virtualization software running on there that allows you to create virtual machines. And your host maybe has 12 CPUs and 64 gigabytes of RAM. Yours will be different, but I'm just using this as an example. In that machine, in the hypervisor, I can create machines. So let me go and create, say, 3 web servers, each having 4 CPUs and each having 12 gig of RAM. Well, I've immediately maxed out my CPUs, but virtualization software is clever. It's going to allow me to share those CPUs if I go and create more. So currently I'm using 12 CPUs and 36 gig of RAM. If I spin up another 3 app servers, say, now I'm using 24 CPUs and 72 gig of RAM, and my storage now is at 60%. If I spin up another 3 servers, I'm kind of starting to push the limits, potentially, depending how busy my systems are, of the capabilities of the hypervisor. Could I squeeze more into this machine? Sure, I could. Hypervisor might let me. So let's spin up another 3 4 CPU 12 gig. Now I'm overloading my 12 CPU machine with 48 CPU worth of virtual machines. This is not a technical course on the complexities and the sophistication of hypervisors. Some of them are very clever and are very able to cope with this. But look what's happened to my storage when I've spun up the last 3 servers. I've exceeded my capacity, so I can't actually provision those 3 servers. I don't have enough storage. I've exceeded my storage capacity. So how do I solve that problem? Well, I have to go and buy more storage. Now, I could have predicted that, and I could have bought ahead, and I could have had that ready, but I needed to have known that I was going to consume that amount of storage before I went to order it. So I could go and order some more storage. I could even go and order a brand new machine with another 12 CPUs and 64 gig of memory, and I can migrate those 3 problematic VMs to my new hardware and solve my storage problem as well. That red light goes away, and we solve our scalability issue. That whole operation could have taken us months to get there. If you were ready for that, if you were predicting that you were needing those 3 additional servers and that storage well ahead of time, then it would have been there ready for you. But just that's not necessarily the reality of many organizations. Another way of describing that high technical problem is that the infamous James Doohan from Star Trek, otherwise known as Scotty. This is a very old photograph of him, I think from one of the very first episodes. He was the engineer on Star Trek's Enterprise, and he's being told to ramp up the engines, and his famous quote of, "She cannot take any more, Captain," forgive my Scottish accent. But that's the point. He's maxed out. There is no more, warp drive he can get out of the engines. I think the plasma conduits were at full max or something like that. But anyway, data centers are typically limited by design in an ability to scale on demand. So what does this look like in the cloud? Here's our same set of virtual machines, but because I have n CPUs available to me in the cloud infrastructure, an unlimited number of CPUs, an unlimited amount of memory and space in which I can create new virtual machines and storage space, I can scale pretty much as big as I need to. And this is true of all the clouds. It's not infinite. It can't possibly be infinite, but it is unlimited enough for the vast majority of large organizations looking to run their PeopleSoft systems in the cloud. There's another way of describing this limited. There's another way of describing this on-demand scalability positive, and it's that there is a negative to this as well. Is that if you have an infinite amount or unlimited amount of compute resources available to you, then here's the problem. And I don't know if you've heard of Cyril Northcote Parkinson. He was a maritime historian, naval historian in the UK, a prolific author. His most famous work was Parkinson's Law on the Pursuit of Progress, and his most famous law was work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Of course, we're all familiar with this. If you're given 10 days to complete something, you will take all 10 days. If you're given just 2 days, then maybe you will just take 2 days over it. Here's how this applies in the world of cloud. That servers expand to fill cloud space available. And that is one of the dangers of unlimited compute. You need to be in a position where you've got good controls over the unlimited availability of compute resources. I just wanted to call that out. We've talked a lot about servers. The way in which you get PeopleSoft into the cloud is you have to create servers in the cloud on which to run PeopleSoft. So there's a cost to running a server. That server consumes CPU and memory and storage. It requires an operating system. That operating system might have a license cost. There's time spent configuring and securing that server. That server's operating system and the software on it needs patching regularly. The server itself needs monitoring. What if it goes down? And it could break. Well, the hardware might not break, but the software on it might break. If you're in the cloud, hardware shouldn't break, but the cloud providers pride themselves in protecting customers from breakages in hardware. I've had virtual machines running in Amazon AWS cloud ever since day one that they've released public cloud, running Doom servers and more recently Minecraft servers for my kids. Never had to worry about breakages in hardware. If a component within the cloud center's data center is going to be maintained in some way, they will seamlessly move my VM off that hardware onto some other hardware, and I don't even know about it. So that all the management of that is taken care of by the cloud vendors. But there is a cost to still running servers in the cloud. So is it possible for us to go serverless where we can? So where does this apply to PeopleSoft? Can we go serverless on some of the PeopleSoft components? So cloud services for PeopleSoft, what could they be? Well, we can create file systems in cloud. All the cloud providers provide file system services. This is where you can create mount points for file storage without the need for a server, without the need to specify CPU or memory, and without the need for an operating system. We can put things like PS Home or App Home. We can put report repository on there, file attachment stores. You could keep your DPK libraries on there, scripts, all sorts of things. Other services, SMTP, mailing services. A lot of organizations run their PeopleSoft mailing through a dedicated server that has an SMTP gateway running on it. Well, there's another server you can dispense with by utilizing native cloud emailing services, including advanced filtering, protection, and forwarding, not just for outbound, but for inbound emailing as well. Did you know that there was a native Outlook interface in PeopleTools 858 now for inbound emails? Load balancer services is another useful one in the PeopleSoft repertoire. There aren't many organizations that are running PeopleSoft that aren't running some kind of load balancer front end. not just to balance load across their PeopleSoft web servers, but to perform other services like encryption and handling the offloading of encryption, or as a failover mechanism. If one of your PeopleSoft web servers crashes or you bring it down for maintenance, the load balancer detects that and reroutes new requests to other services. Again, a lot of organizations run those load balancers and firewalls and other edge networking security on physical servers, which need maintaining. Or if they're not on physical servers, they might be purpose-built physical devices that occupy space in your data center, need to be patched, need to be maintained, need power, etc. Load balancers, firewalls, and edge networking are all delivered by the three main cloud vendors I've referred to, and could reduce the number of services in your PeopleSoft footprint. Systems monitoring and alerting as well is available in many of the cloud for monitoring disk utilization, CPU, availability of services, and so on and so forth. Integration services is another one. PeopleSoft does have integration broker, but what if you want to offload some of that integration to third parties? PeopleTools 858 now has integration with Twilio. Twilio is a cloud-based messaging service, and you're offloading onto their systems some of the workload in messaging out to your clients, whether they be suppliers or customers or end users. Again, offloading integration services to native cloud services, and then the kind of really obvious bread and butter things like backup and recovery, which we've already seen at work. So I thought we'd take a quick look at a load balancer if we have time. I was going to switch back to here's my clone system that I created. Right now, I'm accessing this over the public internet, and I'm hitting the PeopleSoft web server directly, but really that's not a good idea. So let me see if I can create a load balancer. So we can do this in any of the cloud vendors. I just happen to be showing Oracle here, but if I wanted to create a new load balancer for this test machine, simply click the Create Load Balancer button, select the size of load balancer I want. In this instance, I'm going to select a small scale one. Which virtual network is this going to sit in? Which subnet of my network is this going to sit in? And then what algorithms do I want it to use for the load balancing? And which back-end web servers am I going to connect this to? And there's my clone here. There's my clone server that was created. And I could select one or more of these, select, click next, tell it whether it's encrypted or not encrypted. I'll select not encrypted just now for simplicity, and that's it, submit. And that's me. I've created a load balancer. Nothing to install, no operating system to install, no server to provision on which to install your load balancer. And this is not new technology in the world of the cloud. And I've just reduced maybe a bunch of servers at my data center. And there are service level agreements on those servers with the cloud providers. What are some of the potential pitfalls in moving PeopleSoft to the cloud? Well, we've already talked about uncontrolled server growth. Servers expand to fill cloud space available. If you tell your developers they can spin up as many machines as they want to for practicing and rehearsing stuff, guess what? They will do. They won't be paying the bill, so they'll just go ahead and spend, and then someone will get a big bill at the end of it. That's important. You manage those, that you can allocate quotas to various departments and individuals so that there is imposed limits, but theoretically there are no limits. So managing the growth of servers is very, very important. There could be licensing issues. If you take PeopleSoft to the cloud, you're taking your PeopleSoft license to the cloud. There are no problems with that. But what about your database? Can you take your database licenses to Amazon or to Microsoft Cloud without taking a penalty? Something to explore. Automation of PeopleSoft, you move PeopleSoft to the cloud, the automation of PeopleSoft is not automatic. If you lift your PeopleSoft web and app and batch servers and database server from on-premises to Amazon, Oracle, or Microsoft Cloud, and you turn the key, you do not get automated PeopleTools patching. Now, you get DPKs, deployment packages, and you get ACM, automated configuration management. You get those with PeopleTools. So they are the tools you would use in which to orchestrate the automation of patching or provisioning. Those things aren't done for you out of the tin. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager is perhaps the slight exception here. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager only runs on Oracle Cloud infrastructure, but you do get some of that orchestration done for you, but Cloud Manager only runs on Oracle Cloud, and it only runs on Oracle databases today. What are some of the other pitfalls around moving PeopleSoft to the cloud? There's an integrations challenge. So on the left there, we've got our on-premises data center. On the right, we've got PeopleSoft in the cloud. We're using cloud services, and effectively these two data centers are separated. How do we connect them? Well, we've got to connect them in some way. What size of pipe do we connect them with? What bandwidth does it have? What capacity does it have? Where do we put our client tools? Do we put App Designer in our local data center and PeopleSoft in remote? Well, is that pipe big enough, fast enough to deal with client tools, not just App Designer, but Change Assistant maybe? Is it better to put your client tools in the cloud? That is, after all, where PUM is, and especially if you're running Change Assistant with large change packages, that's something we would certainly recommend. You've got on-premises apps other than PeopleSoft in which you might need to integrate with either direction. As soon as you start integrating over that pipe, might that pipe not be big enough, and you might have to go for a bigger pipe? Well, there's no surprise there. The bigger the pipe, the more expensive it is. These integration problems are not new to the IT world. I would warrant that most of our data centers are not physically in the building where we work. Some are, but most aren't. Some might not even be in the same country. I work with a number of clients based in the UK. Their developers are in the UK, but their servers they're doing the development on, PeopleSoft servers, are in the US or they're in Australia. So this connectivity problem is not new to the IT world, and all the cloud providers provide some very sophisticated and clever tools to allow that integration. But it does need thought in design. Your public cloud environment suddenly is outside your data center, so you've got to connect them, whereas previously there was implicit connectivity. And then you've got third-party systems to consider. External systems, they could be suppliers or vendors or customers who aren't employed by you, prospective employees that are applying for posts. How do you integrate that with PeopleSoft? Do you bring them into your data center and then back out to the cloud? Or do you go direct to public cloud? If so, you've got that integration to deal with. This webinar isn't going to solve this. I'm just calling out these are some of the pitfalls. There are integration challenges. So, PeopleSoft in the cloud, what does it offer me? Is it better? Well, it offers me better data center security and resilience. It offers me, Graham Smith, working inside Cedar Consulting and version 1, better performance and reliability. It provides me pay-as-you-go running costs. We stop using a machine tomorrow, we stop paying for it. It also gives me visibility of costs, so I'm able to apportion those by department and by project that's running the systems. And it gives me very, very good agility with on-demand scalability. I don't have to consult with my hardware people to say, have we got enough space for another financial system because we're starting a new development project. And I'm able to use native cloud services, and we're using load balancers and SMTP email routing in order to help us do that. We're also using file system storage as well to allow us to reduce the number of servers. So we have another quick poll, and this time if you're thinking of moving PeopleSoft to the cloud, what is it? Something you've got happening right now today? Is it is it in the next 12 months? Is it sometime you're looking at for the next 2-3 years, more than 3 years, or you're really not looking at the moment? You just thought you'd join in because this might be an entertaining presentation. Okay, let's take a few more seconds for people to cast their vote and then we'll move on. That's great. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on. So, putting PeopleSoft in the cloud. Now, this webinar is not about how we do it, but I just wanted to call out some very specific things about PeopleSoft that make it possible to have PeopleSoft in the cloud and create value. Now, I'll say up front, and if you read my article that I wrote for Oracle Scene, I say this in there, you have always been able to run PeopleSoft in the cloud, always. As long as you've been able to spin up a virtual machine that ran Linux or ran Windows, you could have installed PeopleSoft on it using your CDs, because we used to install with CDs back in the day, if you remember that. So what has changed in PeopleSoft, though, that makes it more manageable in the cloud? So the first thing I would say that if you're considering putting PeopleSoft in the cloud, revisit your PeopleSoft architecture. Now, you don't have to do this, but you want to try and take advantage of native cloud services if you can. Now, you might do this in a two-phase approach. You might just decide to lift everything, drop it into the cloud because your data center is about to collapse. It comes to end of life at the end of the year, and you really don't have time to rethink things. That's fine. We can make incremental changes over time. I wanted to call out that automation is key to gaining new value. Now, you might get enough value simply by lifting and shifting, and the cost savings in the pay-as-you-go model is enough to justify the expense of moving, and you can get rid of your data center servers and they're not a problem to you anymore. That might be enough, but automation is key to gaining new value. DPKs and ACM, they were not introduced by Oracle so that we could run PeopleSoft in the cloud. They were introduced to make automation in the cloud possible, but they're not exclusive to the cloud. So if you're running a virtualization platform on premises today, you have PeopleTools, DPK, and ACM. You can automate the install of PeopleSoft. You may well be automating already the installation of PeopleSoft and its configuration using those tools inside VMware or Zen or some other hypervisor. So you don't need to move to cloud to automate the install and configuration of PeopleSoft, but tools like this can certainly help gain additional value if you do move to the cloud. And PeopleSoft Cloud Manager is something well worth considering. Even if you're not moving to Oracle Cloud, still consider PeopleSoft Cloud Manager for things like your PUM instances, demo, maybe some of your development, sandpit, play test systems. And even if you have core development and core production, maybe running in Amazon Azure, still have a look at PeopleSoft Cloud Manager on OCI for your kind of no-brainer provisioning of these instances. You could save yourself a lot of effort and time. So let's we've already seen Cloud Manager at work, but I just wanted to call out some very specific things about Cloud Manager. Firstly, that it is for Oracle Cloud only. It's another PeopleSoft instance that you have to install and maintain. The installation is pretty much one click. It's very, very seamless, very straightforward. You can use it to provision new PeopleSoft environments, and not just demo environments, but if you upload your own environments into Cloud Manager, you can provision whole copies and clone whole copies of your own environments as well. You can use it to automate the application of PeopleTools patches and indeed do whole upgrades. So 857 to 858 with automatic upgrade of Elasticsearch and installation of Kibana as an example of that. And you've already seen the cloning there. So I've got one more demo for you. Here's our clone. This time we're just going to drill into the details just to show you that this environment does actually exist. It's made up of one Linux machine and all those components and a PeopleSoft client. And from this dashboard in Cloud Manager, I'm going to go to the Apply PeopleTools Patch menu, and I'm going to select which patch I want to apply to my already 85803 environment. I'm going to click the Update button and acknowledge that. Now it goes black. We're not doing this live for a reason. There's another timer. Oh, it happened so fast I missed it. Sorry. Let me just go back. There we go. So that's complete. I've just paused the video. I accelerated the video again just to save us time. 47 minutes, just over, to apply a PeopleTools patch to the full tier HCM environment and get it up to patch 4. I didn't even need to download the patch. Cloud Manager did that for me. It detected that the patch was there and downloaded it for me. This is now complete. Well, let's prove that this really is completed. There's our status down there. Let's continue the video, log into this environment. This is the one we logged into just earlier live. And we'll do a Control J on the Fluid homepage and Control J with the should show us that we're now on PeopleTools 85804. So that's Cloud Manager. Okay, that is provided as part of your PeopleSoft license agreement, and you effectively get it for free. You just have to run it in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You can perform the same orchestration and automation in other clouds, but you do have to go through the work. Now, I've got a picture of it here. I've got the real thing here. I don't know if you can see that. Those of you who've been involved in PeopleSoft for a while will remember these things. They contain CDs. They were the installation binders for PeopleSoft around about 7.5 days, maybe older than that actually. I don't keep PeopleSoft CDs in them anymore. I keep wedding videos and other home videos. They're a useful little binder. Trip down memory lane, we don't do that anymore. We do Cloud Manager now. Every PeopleSoft instance within Cedar Consulting practice, we provision using Cloud Manager. Every Elasticsearch and Kibana instance, we also now provision using Cloud Manager. We want to try out the latest PeopleTools version or the latest image, we use Cloud Manager. Is it better? Well, it is for me. Prior to running PeopleSoft in the cloud at Cedar Consulting, we had a bunch of hosted physical servers and they were always running out of capacity. I could scale up, but it would take them a couple of weeks to provision new servers for me. And then I'd end up with more capacity than I needed. And when I deleted my VMs from them, I was still paying for the physical hardware. So is it better for me? I've got on-demand scalability now. I can provision new servers for major upgrades and training, and we don't have particularly high peak loads, but if this were you, maybe you would. Maybe if you were a university with, students enrolling for classes, you could potentially have tens and tens of thousands of users all hitting your system at once, and the ability to on-demand scale. When we get PeopleTools certified on Oracle Database as a Service, we will be able to scale up the CPUs real time without any loss of service. And you will pay for those CPU licenses only for the time they're up and running. It's very, very impressive, and I can't wait for that to be certified on PeopleTools. It's made me agile in working the Cedar Consulting images, and I only pay for what I use. I've been able to reduce my server footprint by using native cloud services, and I have improved my cost visibility and management. And I get consistent and reliable performance. I know that when I spin up a machine in Oracle Cloud, it's going to perform the same as the previous one that I spun up in Oracle Cloud. Is it cheaper? Well, yes. Sometimes, no. And I don't know, is it cheaper? I don't know how much you pay for your PeopleSoft services at the moment, but is it cheaper than what? Can I spin up the latest PUM image in under 1 hour? Yes, I can. That saves me several hours of install time and configuration time. So actually for us, that's saving money. Can I apply the latest PeopleTools patch to a test system in under 1 hour? Yes, I can. That saves me money. Can I back up quickly? Yes, I can. That saves me money. Am I paying for electricity, lighting and cooling in my data center? Well, we never really had a data center, but if we did, yes, we were paying for it. Now we're not. Will it cost me to rip out and decommission any aircon and power backup that my PeopleSoft data center sits in? Well, you might be able to do that if you moved everything to the cloud, but maybe you're just moving PeopleSoft. So you're going to have to leave some aircon and power backup behind for that. So maybe you won't save any money there by moving PeopleSoft. And the same applies to renting floor space in your machine room. If you've got a machine room with 1,000 machines in it, only 100 of which were PeopleSoft, if you move out the 100, you've still got 900 machines that are non-PeopleSoft in your machine room. So there's some complex dynamics at play here around producing your return on investment and total cost of ownership and the savings that you might make in moving to cloud. There are countless other questions. It's a complex thing to go through and work out, is it cheaper? For Cedar Consulting, it definitely is. We have been able to achieve greater agility, greater response to customer demands and our own internal demands through using cloud. And because of that agility, we've saved money and we've created opportunities as well. We've solved problems which have opened up opportunities. All the cloud providers provide online cost estimators. If you really wanted to try and get into this, I would recommend that you sit down with a good hardware engineer, someone who understands your infrastructure so that you knew which parts of this to model, and have somebody sitting with you who understands the Oracle products and the Amazon products and the Microsoft products. It is a complex thing to price up PeopleSoft running in the cloud. Nothing, by no means impossible. I'm just saying it's complex. So our final vote of the day or the session, and maybe you have a corporate strategy to move to cloud. If so, what might that be? If you're not thinking about cloud, would your organization have a leaning towards one particular vendor? If you're actively moving to the cloud, what would your preference be? We're just interested to know. We have no particular axe to grind on any one particular cloud vendor. Version 1 is very neutral in this. We will help our customers decide what's best for them and what products and services suit their environment best. So let's call a halt on that vote and let's see if we can wrap up in the next few minutes. There are some other costs other than the costs of servers, physically running servers, that those modeling tools from the vendors won't really help you with, and that's things like your initial migration. Now you've got your on-premises at the moment, you've got to get that PeopleSoft system to cloud. How are you going to do that? How are you going to get it there? Who's going to help you with the design, the install, the integration issues, helping you set up the monitoring? So there's an initial migration. There's also investment in automation, and that investment might be zero. It might be that you do nothing. It might be that your data center is so so manual and not automated and costing you so much and is at end of life that simply moving to cloud has intrinsic value and benefit. But there might be some things you want to automate. I'm thinking backups and monitoring are kind of really obvious ones here. There may be some parts of, in parts of your system that you'll outsource to a third-party partner to manage. It might be that you're quite happy to manage the PeopleSoft side of this, but you really don't want to worry about patching Linux anymore or patching your databases or making sure that the patches are compatible with PeopleTools and all of that complexity. You might just decide to allow a third party to manage that problem away for you. A third party that's got expertise in automation and PeopleSoft. And finally, we've already called this out, there could be some licensing implications. So who do you believe? If you go to the cloud vendors, they are going to tell you that theirs is cheaper than on-prem. But you know what? If you go to the hardware vendors, it's quite likely they'll tell you that their hardware is cheaper than cloud. This is a quote from Marco Mainardi, who is one of Gartner's research directors. He blogs prolifically about calculating TCO and return on investment around cloud infrastructure and migration. He doesn't talk to the specific PeopleSoft world, but he talks generally about migration to cloud. Has some very interesting takes on this. So who do you believe? Well, you need to find trusted partners who can help you debunk some of the myths, share with you some of the stark realities and some of the pitfalls of moving to cloud as well. So in summary, what does PeopleSoft in the cloud look like? Well, it's your instances of PeopleSoft. It is your on-premises PeopleSoft software licenses that you're moving. It's running on infrastructure that is in the cloud instead of infrastructure that is on premises. Sorry to state the obvious, but that's what it is. It's securely connected to your users. That's what PeopleSoft in the cloud looks like. There's no reason why you can't solve and address the security concerns of moving PeopleSoft to the cloud. And it's taking advantage of native cloud services, and we've talked about some of these already. It looks like as much investment into automation as you want to do or are able to do. It's access to unlimited resources, but make sure you control access to those so you manage your spend. And it's maybe working with a trusted cloud partner to help manage some or even all of that PeopleSoft in the cloud. So how can version 1 help? Well, we're PeopleSoft specialists. We've been around in the PeopleSoft world a long time. We've worked on premises, on hardware, on virtualization, on cloud. We've recently migrated a number of PeopleSoft customers to Oracle Cloud and to Azure Cloud. We've got experience. Cedar Consulting is part of the version 1 group who's very experienced in cloud, and they can bring, experience of working with over 100 customers. That's eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards customers who are running core business ERP systems in the cloud today. We have a strong managed services team in version 1, and we have 14 PeopleSoft managed services customers, which we manage some or all of their PeopleSoft estate for them. And version 1 has a dedicated licensing team. All they do is give our customers advice, independent advice on how best to manage their Oracle and platform licenses, especially when moving to the cloud. So we can help with strategy, we can help with the migration, we can help get you there, we can help run it for you. Maybe you're already on cloud and you're struggling, you have problems, we can help come in and optimize some of those and address some of those for you. And that is me done. I'm not sure we have much time left for questions. I wanted to say at the beginning, and it was very remiss of me not to say this, but any questions that you did ask on the GoToMeeting chat, I promise you we will answer them. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, but that's our email address. Our telephone numbers are on there as well. If there's been anything that I've said in this webinar that you think, hang on, Graham, I'm not sure I agree with that, that's fine. Call me up, talk to me. If you want to explore something further, if this is something you want to consider, does moving to PeopleSoft to cloud have value for me? Just give us a call. We will not force you to cloud. If we genuinely believe that staying on premises is the best thing for your organization, our experts and our specialists will help work that out with you and help you find what's best for your organization. So thank you very much for sparing an hour in your day with me to hear my opinions, my take on PeopleSoft in the cloud. Thank you very much. Good day to you.